This is offering the fish out of water experience that I think Star Wars has needed for a long time.
It's clear as day. We know who Jude Law's character is, right?
Oh yeah.
But then she said great work. A big thing in the High Republic era was the initiative from the Chancellor, Lina Soh, to push these great works. Starlight Beacon was one of them.
Oh, the Galacto allegations. It's never going to be beaten.
It's purely coincidental. But the two action figures he has look a lot like Arkin and Thexan. One is like in all white and one is like in all black.
Don't get me started on this, all right?
What I see is the beginning.
Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to Mortis FM, a Star Wars podcast. I am Grayson, one of your hosts, and with me
It's Cole, the other host. Grayson, my memory fails me. What are we talking about today?
Oh, you know, just this new Star Wars adventure called Skeleton Crew, which premiered last night as we were recording this, first two episodes. And, you know, I say we not waste any time. Why don't we hop right into it? Give me just your 1 minute kind of raw, spoiler-free thoughts on the first two episodes of Skeleton Crew.
Nope, you know what? I'm gonna flip this right back at you. Skeleton Crew, initial thoughts, summary in 4 words. Go.
4 words. Ooh. Does it have to be like a sentence or just like 4? Can they be 4 like indistinct?
whatever words
Okay.
whatever words you want to choose, whether it's a sentence or just
Okay. Fresh, adventurous.
I thought you were about to say Fresh Prince of
Fresh Prince Bel Air. No. Yeah, fresh, adventurous, exciting. Oh, what is this last word going to be? Mysterious. Yeah. What are yours? And I want to know yours.
I was gonna do something similar to yours. But now I'm just gonna be funny and say I like Skeleton Crew. So I'll go with that. I agree. So initial thoughts. I think it's a lot more fun than I had initially thought that it was going to be.
Yeah.
As you and I had spoken about before, it wasn't like something that was entirely on my radar. It was something, especially when it was announced, that I was just kind of like, all right, you know, and I'm pleasantly surprised by these first 2 episodes. It's very fun. It's very fun.
Yeah. I remember there was plenty of jokes like, and
dude,
purely
it's so funny.
The show is funny, but I remember there was so many jokes that we were making amongst you and I and friends of just being like, hey, don't forget about Skeleton Crew, you know, like talking about projects we were excited for. But it was always not like a diss of like, oh, this show is not going to be good. I never once thought that. It was more so like, for the longest time, nothing, like we knew nothing about the show. Like it was just, it was like pretty much done, filmed, wrapped, and it had been kind of in the oven for a long time, which is very obvious when you watch the show. Like it looks really good. But I remember just being like, it's funny because we just don't know anything about it. Like I genuinely have no opinion on or like expectations for the show, because all I know is it's about kids and like kind of pirate stuff. That's all I really knew.
There was no real reason to be excited about it because we didn't know enough about it. It's like it's like the extent of going like, man, I want a snack, but I don't know what to eat, and it's like, man, I already ate the Oreos and the Cheez-Its are gone, Grayson's favorite, and I had the frozen pizza, and then like some guy's like, I got crackers, and I'm just like, man, I mean, they're all right, but like, it's just like I don't know anything. Like, it's just, as far as I know, it's just a plain box of crackers.
What an analogy!
Yeah, I started cracking myself up because I was like, this is really long-winded. Essentially, essentially, what I'm trying to say is that like there wasn't anything about it that was just like, oh my goodness, I'm so excited for Skeleton Crew, and kind of in the same way. I think I had mentioned it in our last episode that like I was like, I really hope that it's similar to Andor, where like when Andor was announced amongst Ahsoka season 2, Kenobi, Mando season 3, you know, and then Andor was there. Everyone was making fun of Andor. They were like, man, like this guy thinks he's one of the crew, you know, kind of thing.
That. It was the they did like the variety photo shoot, and they had like Mando, Ahsoka, and Ewan McGregor, and then Cassian was like, you know, just hanging out.
Just there. He was like, yeah, he thinks he's one of the crew, and like everybody was making fun of that. They were like imagine pitting this up against it, and then arguably some say that it is like the best that came out of that.
It is.
I am the sum in that, you know, like and so I'm not saying that like Skeleton Crew is like knocking me out of the water, but it is certainly, I mean, the whole time I was watching it, I was like, oh, this is fun. I like this. Like I was having a good time. And I think that's what's really important. I felt like it wasn't bothering me from a critical standpoint. It wasn't making me think, oh, I don't like how they did this with Star Wars, you know? And, you know, it really takes a lot to do that these days. And I enjoyed the way that it is, that, as you had mentioned, like the production value, it's good. I like it.
Yeah.
It feels good. It looks good.
Yeah.
So I mean, good impressions first, you know?
Yeah. I echo all of your sentiments, and I don't know, like last night, just getting home and like putting that on, and I don't know, I don't know, it's like, I've got a good feeling about this, you know, like that's really what I felt like, and from these first 2 episodes, like I have no complaints with the production or the set design or really the characters or anything like that. Like I genuinely am just, and here's one thing that I kind of wanted to kind of segue as we kind of start talking about what actually happens in the episode, because I'm sure if you're here, you've already seen it. What we talk about this all the time. You can see them up there on your shelf right above your left. All those Fantasy Flight and Edge books for Edge of the Empire, Age of Rebellion, and Force and Destiny. A module that you and I are very big fans of, and what we always kind of reference it when talking about how it kind of shapes our perception of Star Wars in a very beneficial way. And maybe one day we'll talk about that more at length. Just maybe especially after Skeleton Crew wraps, that'd be fun to kind of talk more about that. But that's, I mean, it just has that DNA of like, here is a original story. Like it, I mean, people were talking about like kind of the Stranger Thing influences, and of course like E.T. and, you know, all of those, like that 80s vibe. What you think about Stranger Things, a big part of that is D&D, and those books, I mean, that's what those are. It's Star Wars tabletop RPG. It's rolling dice, role playing, going through battles and stuff like that. And that feels like that, but just with a younger group of characters in a very pirate themed, space pirate themed setting. And I love it.
Yeah, it's very Goonies, you know, which I think was like the big inspiration for that. That actually brings up a good point. Something that I was thinking as I was watching these episodes, I was like, this is offering the fish out of water experience that I think Star Wars has needed for a long time.
Yeah.
I think I had mentioned it when we were talking about like the first episode or so of Acolyte, where it was like, I don't really know what era I'm in, and I like that, you know, it's an introduction to new technology and stuff like that. But through the eyes of these kids, like from the perspective of these kids who, you know, we will discuss as the episode goes on, have been planetarily, is that a word? Planetarily sheltered, atmospherically sheltered, we'll go with that. And they are now thrown out into the galaxy, and despite knowing what the era is and like knowing about all of the intricacies of Star Wars and whatnot, being introduced to these new places and so many shown species and aliens, and especially the technology with the ship and whatnot.
Yeah.
It feels like it feels like an adventure kind of thing. Like, I don't know what this is, but I'm having a good time. I feel like new things are being introduced to me. And so, yeah, we're here for it. We love it.
As a Star Wars fan, I always do. I like seeing things that I do know, but I equally love seeing things that I don't know that fit into the narrative of Star Wars. And I think that's, I mean, why Star Wars was such a big, is so big is because when the very first movie came out, it was so wild and wondrous, and every little thing that people would say, you're like, what is that? What is that? The Clone Wars, you know, like, oh, Luke's father. Oh my gosh, the Empire, the Rebellion. What
are the spice mines of Kessel? You know?
You're like, what in the world? What's a parsec, dude? Like, I don't, you know, like all of this stuff. And now we get that from the perception of kids, but within the Star Wars universe. So, you know, why don't let's just get right into it, because I've got a whole list of things that we'll hop around to. But let's you know, you've been warned. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I think I'll say, like, if you're watching this preemptively just to see, man, I don't know about this Skeleton Crew. I just want to, like, see people talk about it, get my opinions from it there. I don't feel like watching it. I would recommend at least checking out the first episode. Yeah. See how you feel about it. And then come back, because we love you. But go check it out.
There you go. Well said. So the mystery, I think the kind of the first central point to talk about is the mystery of ATTIN. Okay.
Yeah.
It, you know, the opening crawl, they kind of talk about, oh, you know, the New Republic is in power right now, but there's been a lot of like piracy and stuff, and we get that cold open with the pirates. But before we talk about that, we'll talk about just kind of like the central stuff with ATTIN.
Yeah,
I really liked the layering and subsequent like little teases of the true Nate, which we still don't know fully everything, but like what ATTIN exactly is, you know, even down to like, okay, we've got Wim, and you know, he's in school and they're training all these things, and they talked about in press that like ATTIN is like the crown of the Old Republic, or a crown jewel of the Old Republic. And you're like, what kind of Old Republic are we talking about? Are we talking like Obi-Wan talking about the Old Republic, or are we talking like KOTOR Old Republic, or, you know, because people throw that term around. But then, you know, as we go on into episode two, and they get off to the other galaxy, you're like, they're getting these people, their teases like, oh, that, you know, they're talking to SM-33, and they're like, take us home, and he's like, I don't have that location in my data banks, you know, and then talking to the kind of like courtesan girl, and she's like, hey, we're from ATTIN. She's like, yeah, right, like, quit being funny about it. And like, and then pieces are starting to connect where you're like, well, wait, they're talking about Jedi pretty openly, and it's not the Clone Wars and stuff. It's like they're talking about, like, so I don't know if did you see the translation of all of the little stories?
I did. I was very happy. Dude, so when I was watching the episode, like, I don't know why I wasn't thinking that somebody else had already done it. I paused it and I was like, I'm going to translate this. So I started translating a couple of them, and I was like, whoa, this is interesting. And then I was like, this is going to take too much time. I bet like Star Wars Explained did it, you know? Because
there's some people that, like, they've got it memorized, what, like the Orabesh stuff. And I was like, I'm going to just enjoy this. And I was like, tomorrow somebody will have it. Of course, shout out Star Wars Explained. He took care of it real quick. And what's notable is, like, it's talking about Jedi and Sith and Jedi temples and like in these fables, but it's not like not Clone Wars era Jedi. It's definitely not. Originally I remember seeing trailers. I was like, oh, that's Luke in the Rancor. You know, like he knows about that. They don't know about that. Like there seems like, I mean, I think at this point in the timeline they're about like, I'm gonna go on a whim and say they're about like on a whim, with like maybe they're like 7-8 years after Return of the Jedi. I don't fully know. That's just my guess. And they seem like they're doing just fine. And like there was no real impact from the Empire. Everything is nice and safe and cushy, and like, oh, this is a kind of suburban Star Wars planet? Like,
so I'm gonna throw out a supposition here. While I was watching it, you want to know what it felt like to me?
what's that?
It felt like a vault from Fallout.
Whoa, yeah.
It felt like a Fallout vault, right? There's a supervisor. There are restricted areas. They're not allowed to leave. You know, it's very formerly.
You can't even see the stars at night. Like there's like little dots that are like a security net.
There's little red things. That's what the barrier is, I'm assuming. And initially when they had mentioned the barrier, I was like, oh, are they like in the deep core or something? Or are they in the unknown regions or whatever? But I really think it's just the planet. But as I'm saying it, I'm wondering if ATTIN is even a planet. You know what I mean? What if it's something that's just completely, I mean, what if it is kind of vault-like where it is almost entirely artificial? Because why is there a barrier? Why is it?
Yeah.
What about it is needing to be protected? And what's weird is that, like, yeah, we're questioning what exactly era are they from, right? Because even in the Galactic Civil War era, not a lot of people knew about Jedi. Certainly didn't know about the term Sith. I mean, come on, like who knows about the Jedi and the Sith?
Even the Empire didn't know about the Sith. They didn't even know what Vader and Palpatine were, right?
Yeah, they were just like, all right, man, they're just guys, you know?
Yeah.
I get my paycheck anyway. Like that's, and so for them to have storybooks on the Jedi and the Sith, and also for them to have murals in their home. There was a mural in the supervisor's home and in Fern's home. There was like something on the wall.
I tried to pause and see, and there was like a couple different species on there, and like there was something.
One of them had a lightsaber. One of them had a lightsaber, and like I'm wondering, what is this? And I
have one hypothesis here. Okay. And it's not concrete, but it definitely, I think, is a little bit more of a tease. And this was my first indication. Is I'm blanking on her name. It's the supervisor lady that is the mother of Fern.
Fern.
Yeah. So she's talking to the class, and she mentions like they're doing this assessment test thing, which again very Fallout like with like the goat, whatever it's called. Like is that what it's called?
It's something like that. It determines what your role is going to be. It's very like the Giver-esque.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, or even like the owls in Harry Potter, not like the physical owls, but like the wizarding tests and things. But you know, they're kids. But then she's talking about like what their service will be to everything. And initially I was like, oh, they're talking, okay, the New Republic, they're reforming these planets or whatever. But then she said great work, like, oh, this great work. And I read Light of the Jedi earlier this year, and I'm sure you've seen this as well. A big thing in the High Republic era was the initiative from the Chancellor, Lina So, to push these great works. Starlight Beacon was one of them.
Oh.
And like it was a series of different things of like, oh, like the planet Quinn in John Jackson Miller's The Living Force, them reforming that planet was a great work. And so like that was a series of initiatives that the Republic was going through to make them a stronger Republic. And I'm like, and even then when you're thinking about like the High Republic was the Jedi at their prime, and they were openly praised, and they were heroes, and they were well known throughout the galaxy. But you know, with the Sith they're still not around, right? So you're thinking like that, but people know about the Sith, right? Like it's not like people like don't know about the Sith at that time. So I'm like, is ATTIN like a lost planet that got like kind of stuck in like not like literally, but like almost like in a time capsule in the galaxy, and it's continuing the initiative all these years later from the High Republic era, or maybe even earlier? Like,
well, okay, so question actually, because I don't know a whole lot about the High Republic. I haven't been keeping up with it as much as you have. So the great work thing, is the specific term like great work referenced in the High Republic stuff?
Yeah, it's from the very first book. Like the great works were a thing that the Chancellor Lina So pushed to kind of like basically like they're like little projects, like they're projects across the galaxy to fix this planet here, to put this space station here, to bring food to this planet, or teach this language to this, so that there can be like their open trade can happen, or finding hyperspace routes. You know, it's all of these little things to make the Republic stronger.
Yeah. Okay. So I wasn't gonna mention this unless it was like a joke, but now that you're mentioning that, it seems very likely that this is a High Republic era thing. But what I was going to mention was that I'm sure you're familiar with the fact that the term wizard is brought up in the High Republic.
Yep.
And that there's like, I don't know if he's a Jedi or if he's just a guy, but like he tries to make it stick. And they're all like, oh, it's never gonna go.
Joram or whatever his name, something like that. He's a Jedi. He's like really into fixing parks, and he's basically like, he keeps saying, it's in one of the newer books, like 3 or 4 books, one of the young reader books, but he's just like, that's so wizard, and they're like, quit trying to make wizard work. It's not gonna work, you know? Like it's kind of like a Mean Girls kind of thing. But eventually he does make it work. Yeah, and he
does make it work. And so what I had noticed, I noticed that Wim says like that was so wizard, like he says it in the first episode. And so then the assumption would be made, unless wizard had already existed beforehand, or like they're just ignoring that little thing, then it had to have existed in the High Republic, unless the term wizard is just so funny and how it permeates through society that somehow it made it to at ATTIN, which would be even funnier, honestly. Like if it ended up being like old Republic and wizard ended up being on the planet anyway, that would be really great too.
I mean, the High Republic book initiative, the very final book will be coming out next year. So the kid's name, this is so funny. Charles Soule will be wrapping it up with the first book was Light of the Jedi. I believe this one will be called it's something of the Jedi. I don't remember, but he's doing the very final book. But anyway, it's Ram Jomaram is his name. And he literally his quote on Wikipedia is wizard. So and you know, based on his little wiki thing, he has not died. And
it's gonna work.
Yeah. So I mean, I think eventually here's my speculation. ATTIN is a time capsule where during the High Republic era, they created this planet to be like, you're going to be purely self-sustaining, you know, like this is going to be, and like, in case anything happens, we have kind of this safeguarded planet of like a self-sustaining civilization. So, and then like, in case anything happens, like that way something will be untarnished, right? And the Jedi aren't there or anything. And of course they just get stuck in this bubble. And of course, years down the road, there's these rumors of this place that has this vast amount of credits, because the credits aren't going to other planets. They're all staying on the same planet, right? Yeah. So there's these like, you know, like, oh, this crown jewel of the old Republic that was so cherished by the vastness of the Republic that it's been lost, you know, the coordinates got wiped away, or it's like you said, in the deep core, and there's no way to get to it. I mean, it's kind of like not Kobo, but Tanalorr in Jedi Survivor. But but if Tanalorr was a planet with people, or a system with all of these people, and they're just there by themselves. That's my guess.
That lady on a Port Borgo, was that? Yeah, she says that it's like a supposed planet of endless wealth, or like endless treasure.
I mean, Wim is out here throwing down Old Republic credits like no problem. Yeah. The only thing that is interesting is that they are, the symbol on the credits is of the Grand Army of the Republic. But granted, we don't know when that symbol officially became the Republic symbol. That's just all I know when it comes to like that big symbol on Jesse's head, right? That's the only thing that's interesting to me. But I mean, that doesn't, entirely rule that whole speculation out, you know? I think it's supposed to be like a full planet that's almost like, oh gosh, like what is a good example of like in real life pirate legend, you know, of like
I mean, you could say like Atlantis, you know?
Right, yeah.
I feel like that is kind of a good comparison. Well, what's weird to me is that I mean, I'm just gonna say it already, like Smee. I love that. I love that his name is Smee. And by the way, he's one of my new favorite droids. We can talk about that.
Absolutely. That was one of the first things that I was going to originally bring up. Was I was like, let's talk about the SM33.
Let's talk about SM33. Awesome. I bet that like, so I'm willing to bet that when you were watching him in the show, you were like, Cole's gonna love this guy.
Yeah.
But for me, when he took out the arm shields, I was like, Grayson's gonna love this guy.
Yeah. As soon as he started just like gut punching these aliens,
dude,
and like the blasters was like heating up the shield, and he like singed the guy and threw him. I was like, good. And he's got a little back leg too. Like he's awesome, and like I love him.
What more can you want? Like I'm so happy about it. All the homies know that I love droids. I'm gonna have a Smee statue right here.
Absolutely,
just you wait and see. Anyway, so like what had made me a little curious was that even though Smee was there, and that the ship that he was on was there at ATTIN, he does. Yeah, I could talk about that in a second, actually. That he doesn't know how to get there. And I don't even know if he knew the name. He was just like confused as to what it was. So I mean, maybe like when they crashed or something, his memory was wiped to the place.
Right. It's like I don't know. I mean, they crashed. Like they made it to the planet, but then it's like it reminds me of like in like a pirate legend of like the island like. It's like in the middle of like the Bermuda Triangle, you know? It's like to get to it, and by the time you get to it, you're just completely wrecked, right? Like it's the storm surrounding the treasure in the middle, and maybe that's what it's like. But it's interesting because they got out of ATTIN so easily, so it's like I wonder if it's like hard to get in but easy to leave, sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm wondering like why. Well, I mean, see, I was thinking that too, but then the sentry droids. While they're looking in the woods, they're like, no one is allowed to enter or leave. The barrier. No one is allowed to enter or leave the barrier. And so I'm like, well, how did this essentially like junker freighter get through the barrier? And by the way, I love that ship. I really do.
Very cool. Do we know its name yet?
In terms of the show, I don't think it's been mentioned. Okay. It might be already mentioned by official sources, but I have not seen anything. Okay. To be fair, I haven't been looking at a lot of like Skeleton Crew stuff because like I've just been like, you know what, let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm honestly not sure, but it's cool. It looks a lot like a cargo ship, but
the name of this ship is Gas.
Gas?
It is it's not actually Gas. It is very cool. It is Wizard.
I was like, is the ship just called Gas?
No, you're gonna love it. It's called the Onyx Cinder.
Dude, that is so overboard, and I love it. That is awesome.
It's sick, dude. I love that.
You know what? I'll go ahead and mention like the whole pirate theme on the ship. You know, the peg leg droid called Smee, and he's got the yar har voice, you know, like he's all Port Borgo, and like he talks about like the ferryman and stuff like that, throw him overboard. I don't know. And then the pirate hats and like I'm assuming this dude was impaled by a vibroblade. It looked like a vibroblade to me. It's very pirate-esque, and I'm like, I love it. There are so many themes here that are just clashing together in the show, and I think it's really great.
Did you see Will, shout out Will of the Force, post a little Easter egg from Pirates of the Caribbean ride?
What is it?
So you know the iconic part of the ride where you go by the jail cell and it's the people and they're whistling to the dog and it's in the movie as well. That whistle is in the show. When they're when they get put in the prison, you can go back and listen. He put it on his Instagram. And you can hear like I can't whistle well, but you can hear the little like the exact, and he put it right next to each other, and it's the same one.
That's so great, because I mean, obviously I was getting a Pirates of the Caribbean vibe while I was watching the show.
For sure.
But I think chiefly I was thinking, I really hope that they do a ride of this or something. I feel like that could be really fun.
Yeah, dude. I mean, imagine like Smuggler's Run, but like Skeleton Crew, you know, like you're going through, like you go past Port Borgo or whatever, or Borga, well, I don't remember.
You know what? I'm gonna look it up before unless I keep saying it wrong.
And you know, especially with the whole ride thing, like Hondo Onaka is heavily speculated to be in this show. You know, he is the Star Wars pirate, right?
It is Port Borgo, also known as Starport Borgo or Borgo Prime.
Prime. Okay, cool. There you go.
They say of Borgo, you rest well in a soft bed or a shallow grave.
I love it, dude. That if I have one critique for the show, by the way, the only thing is that I think SM33's voice at times does not sound modulated enough.
I think the exact same thing. I was watching the show and I was like, he doesn't sound enough like a droid. Like, is he just a guy in there?
Yeah, like I don't know, like because at times when he's like at a distance, I was like, it sounds like a droid. But sometimes when it's up close, I'm like, that just sounds like a dude talking over his shoulder, you know?
Yeah. So there was really two big critiques that I had, and I'm saying big, but like it's big as in just what I remember was that one is that sometimes Smee doesn't sound like a droid, and then two, when they're in the cockpit talking to Smee, they're so close to his face. I don't I don't know why. I'm like, why are they talking to him like right here? And I just I was thinking like maybe the mocap just it just didn't look like it would end up that way in post-production. But I'm being so nitpicky because if those are the two complaints that I have, which are, you know, not even complaints, I'm just like, that's a little funny. You know, I really don't I mean that's good news. That's good news.
Because sometimes I always feel like, you know, oh, well, maybe I'm not being critical enough because, you know, I got my Star Wars and this like glasses on, but it's like those were the things that jumped out to me. There was nothing else where I was like, oh, that looked bad, or ooh, that sounded bad, or I didn't like that, you know, like when you're nitpicking just like, oh, it just didn't sound like they put enough of a modulation on Nick Frost's voice as SM33, then I'm like, okay, whatever, you know.
I think there's a point where you got to go like, man, shut up, man. Like,
you know,
like,
and knowing them, they'll probably like, they've done it in the past. They'll give it a couple weeks. They'll probably like go back through and put up a new version where he has a slightly like fixed voice, you know. It might have just slipped by him, but regardless, let's go back to the opening, and I'm just gonna say this is the first thing that I have to mention. It's clear as day. We know who Jude Law's character is, right?
Oh yeah. Dude, as soon as I heard the voice and saw the silhouette, I was like, that's Jude Law. Like, I just said it out loud. Which was I laughed to myself. I was just like, that's Jude Law. And it's funny because I really don't think that they're trying to hide it. I think it's just like a cinematic pull the rug out from under you kind of thing, but in a very obvious way. It's like, look at this rug I'm pulling out, you know, and we all know who he is. And I think that's cool. I actually really like the prologue scene there with his pirate crew. I don't know, like it reminded me of something else that I've either a game that I've played or a movie that I've watched, and I mean that's kind of famous to have like an opening tied to the villain, but this didn't necessarily feel like, here's our villain of the show. It felt more like, because you think about like Ahsoka, right? The opening of that show was with Baylan and Shin. You're like, oh, okay, these are our villains. This was just more like, oh, well, how does this tie into everything, you know? And it's like, oh, pirates are getting desperate. They're looking for this money, and they've been led astray by, I believe they called him Captain Silva. Captain Silvo, I think. I think you're right. It's Silvo, which is not
what on the promotional material Jude Law's character's name is called.
Screen rant. Jude Law's true identity is hardly a mystery. 21 hours ago. It's Captain Silvo. Really cool. I love his look. I love cool masks and trench coats.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I like Jude Law, but it's an honest shame that he lost the helmet. I really hope he gets it back.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, I'm sure you know, but to answer your impression that you've seen it before, the connections to the beginning of A New Hope, you know, it's like, where essentially it's like, if there's no treasure on it, then why is there a magnetic seal like he's holding up, like choking the guy? If this is a consulate ship, where is the ambassador? You know, like, it's very A New Hope, and I was very happy to see that. I was having a good time, and dude, those pirates, man, like those guys that got at the front of the I guess I'll just say injection pod.
Like those the connector like drill tube things.
They're I mean, it's literally the Covenant pods from Halo, right?
Yeah.
Or just Star Wars.
Well, you know what it reminds me of? The separatist like tentacle droids that are on Camino, and they have the arms, and like the battle droids will come out of the arms. You know,
it's got to be very similar tech. I'm willing to bet. But either way, the guys that stand at the front of that, it's so weird because you've got to be thinking, I'm gonna die, you know.
And like a good chunk of them died before people people got through, you know.
Before even that, the Sandevistan or something. It's not cyberpunk, but
no, it was Ishitib, was it guy. Not? Shistavainen.
Shistavainen. I was like, Sandevistan, no, that's Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah, no. The Ishitib came through and got his eye shot, and then he's like, and then shoots. And
what
then
a pimp.
I know, and then you see him later on getting his eye fixed, which is really cool.
Yeah, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, the crew's here. You know, like, these guys are here.
Yeah, and then we see my favorite design in the show, because I love this species, but yeah, the Shistavainen Captain Brutus. I don't know if he was cool. I don't know if he, once they took down Silva, he became the captain, or if he was also a captain. I'm going to assume once they took down Silva, he became the new captain.
I mean, I feel like he was like the first mate or whatever.
Exactly. And
course,
I mean, he walks through and you know, just gunning down, and he's dude. The physical like props and like practical effects.
Very practical, yeah.
I like it. Very good, yeah.
I like it, and of course the name is super on the nose. I wouldn't be surprised if Dave Filoni named him.
Oh, he's just like, this is my new favorite wolf character.
This is my character that is going to betray the head of an organization. I'm going to name him Brutus, you know. Like I think that I don't know why I didn't pick up on it until after the fact. I just like the name Brutus. It's cool, and I was like, dope. Okay, cool, yeah, great.
And immediately what came to mind for me was Connor, if you're listening, shout out. We were talking about Assassin's Creed. It reminded me of the armor of Brutus from Brotherhood, which obviously is what you get from doing all of like the little wolf people side quest things, and it has like a wolf pelt on it, and then Brutus was the assassin who killed Julius Caesar.
I totally forgot about that. I 100%ed Brotherhood, and I was like, I said it's just like a recognition thing, but then as you were saying, I was like, dude, he was in a set. That's cool. That's good.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, that was the whole lore. Was that like, because I think it like ties to like Romulus and Remus, like that whole thing, and then you get the armor, and it's the armor of Brutus, and he was the assassin that actually truly, at least in Assassin's Creed, took out Julius Caesar. So that was my like, oh, I know that because of real mythology and lore and history, but also because it's in Assassin's Creed. But yeah. So it's interesting that he hasn't said his name yet, but Jude Law's character in most of the promotional material, which I guess is probably what he's going to call himself to the kids, is Jod Nawood. That's his name. I think it's Jod
Nawood.
Yeah, Jod Nawood. Or no, Jod Nawood. There's a lot of Yeah, there's a lot of double, like the ATTIN thing, you know, like.
Okay, yeah, that actually reminds me. So when they were saying ATTIN, I thought that, because as far as I remember, I don't know if they had mentioned the planet before or something like that, but like when the kids answered and they said ATTIN, and everyone was going like, ATTIN, and then like laughed at them and saying like, oh, that's a pathetic attempt at hiding it. I was like, are they just nervous and saying a grammatical error that like they are at ATTIN?
Yeah.
And then you know, they kept saying it, and I'm like, oh, that's the actual name of the planet.
Space ATTIN, yeah.
It's where all the AT-ATs are made.
I know, that's what I thought. As I was like, let's make a joke about the people who say AT-AT. If you do, you're done.
What did the Imperials do?
The planet next over is the AT-SITTIN. AT-RITTEN. You know?
Have a good night, everyone.
Let's talk about the kids. I feel like we should talk about them. We haven't really talked much about the main characters, specifically Wim and Fern and Neil.
Off the cuff, who's your favorite?
Listen, I know everybody loves Neil, but I love Wim.
Yeah. Wim, well, for one, I'll just say that they're all great. But I love Neil so much.
I know.
He's kind of like Rowley from Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Like he just lives such a wonderful life, and he's just my little man, you know.
Yeah.
I actually laughed when Wim like went up to the window and he's
taking a bath.
Neil's taking a bath in like a gold-plated hot tub.
Yeah.
It is so great. He's such a funny kid too.
Yeah.
He's got to be my favorite. Like just the humor's great. I guess just like in terms of the kids in general, I think they've got some good rapport. I like the crew here. I want to know more about Fern and KB's relationship.
Yeah, especially KB, because I'm like, for being so young, she's like kind of kitted out with cyborg stuff.
Yeah, I thought about that. Like when she was gaining access to the ship, which I'm now gonna call the gas, as a joke.
Gas.
Gas. But while she was doing that and like gaining access to it, I was thinking to myself, who would do this to a child? Like, why? It felt so strange. But now that we're thinking about it in the potential context of it being somewhat Vault-like from Fallout, I could see it happening. So I don't know, unless it's revealed that she is just 100% like an android, like a droid.
Whoa,
you know,
that'd be crazy.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know much. It's like there's so like you think about it, and like I think it's the illusion of safety on ATTIN, and not to say that it's an unsafe
100%.
planet, but it's like you're like there's something off here, right? Like all these kids are going on these buses and everything. It's like the suburbs. People, a big critique was like, oh, suburbs in Star Wars, but now I'm like, well, maybe that's why it seems so off, is not because it's like, oh, it's not Star Wars, but because, well, the reason it doesn't feel Star Wars is because they're on a place that is so disconnected from the greater galaxy. Like, no wonder it's not these crazy skyscrapers and, you know, like something like Coruscant or Nar Shaddaa, right? And then you think about, what exactly are they working towards? Because they need analysts and all of these things. It's like, what are they...
Yeah.
What are they doing on the planet, you know?
Well, then there's also a question, like, they can't even access the full planet. There's, like, restricted areas. And as far as the restricted areas were concerned, it was the woods, right? So, like, what's wrong with the forest? Are you trying to prevent them from escaping the utopia?
Yeah.
Right? It's super... Something's not right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if it's nefarious, but it just feels like something is off, you know, and like they're
it feels like a forced utopia.
Right, exactly. And I think I mean, I always bring this up, but I feel like, I mean, not even just in general, but I feel like the Force is somehow pushing, like the something is going to happen tied directly to the Force. I would not be surprised if at some point we do end up going to an old Jedi temple. Like, that would be very intriguing.
I think that it would be. I think that Wim deserves some payoff.
Yes.
I will say Wim has made some reckless and very dumb decisions, but he hasn't gotten the Jedi Temple, like, Jedi payoff, right? And I know we're not going to get that.
The ship, right? Pretty luckily, you know, like,
it
was almost like he was like brought there, right?
Yeah, I think there's got to be something. So
I guess we should. I guess we didn't even talk about with Silvo, or at least with Jude Law's character, that he is indeed Force sensitive. That was something that was kind of up in the air, but it's like, this isn't, unless, as someone mentioned this, unless he's like Taja from or Haja or whatever his name is from Kenobi, and using magnets, which I highly doubt. He is a Force sensitive pirate.
So I had heard about what if he's just fooling them, right? But at that point, it would have to be so cockamamie for it to be fake, right? Because if he could get out anyway, what's the point in waiting? And so I'm like, okay, well, if he could get out anyway, if he grabs the key anyway, they would probably just capture him because they bound his hands and feet, right? So maybe he did already try to do this, and then they're like, you're not going to get far at all. But then he hears that the kids have a ship. And they have a way out. Like, there's more than just pirates there. And also, I'm sure he was spawned by the idea of, like, that treasure, you know, like immediately, like, I got to get in on this. And so then there's another thing, though, where, like, I sincerely doubt that he is a Jedi, but when Wim says, you're a Jedi, he doesn't refuse it. He just kind of goes, shh, like, he's just like, oh, don't say anything. Like, it'll be our secret. He definitely
knows what a Jedi is. Like, people still know it, even if it's like the history of them have been, you know, wiped out for the past 20 plus years. People still know what a Jedi is, and it's kind of like, you know, back with Force sensitives, like, oh, dark Jedi, and like people just call any old Force sensitive a Jedi, right? Because that's all they know. They don't know the intricacies of, oh, well, there's different religions of the Force and different sects and cults and things like that. But I there was one thing that I was like, I mean, this fits in perfectly with Edge of the Empire and all of that stuff of, like, what class do you, like, specialization in class do you think Jod or Jude Law's character is? And I mean, off the cuff, he bought the universal specialization of Force Emergent for sure.
yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so one of the things that people were saying that, like, oh, this, you know, him using the Force in the trailer, like, it looks fake. Like that's what they're saying, like, oh, it just looks too weird. And I'm like, well, what if he actually just rarely ever taps into his connection in the Force, and like it's instead just very tentative?
He's not that good at it. He's not trained. Like you think about people who naturally have the Force and that are very strong in it, like someone like Ezra or even Luke and Leia, well into their early adult years. They have the gift even without being directly trained. I mean, Luke had like barely any training after A New Hope and was still able to use the Force okay, right? Like, and so for someone like Jude Law's character, I'm gonna call him Jod because I know that's what I think most things are calling him as.
Jod Law.
Jod Law Silver, Long John Silvers. Like, I mean, you know, people can be Force sensitive and still not be that great at it. And I think it's like, the reason it looks kind of so slow is like, he's really focusing on this one task. Like, he can do little small strengths strengths of feats in the Force like that. But he's not going to be like you know, he's not a Jedi Master. He is not a Sith Lord.
Yeah, I mean, he's clearly running away from the idea of, you know, the Force and whatnot. Being a pirate and just kind of living this life that he has, just engaged in skullduggery and all that. And so, like, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, I mean, I kind of had this thought, like, you know that Old Republic, I think it was the last cinematic trailer that they made before I think they stopped doing the big things, where, like, you see this Jedi Master that he's, like, evaluating these two kids, and, like, the younger brother just can't do it, right?
Yeah, so he only takes the girl.
Yeah, and so I'm like, well, what if he's not a Jedi, but, like, maybe his sibling was taken away, and then, like, he just was the one that just wasn't good enough.
Right,
to do it.
Where the Jedi were being like, like, you know, you got a little bit, but not enough for us to train you. I mean, even someone like Sabine, right? Like, we think about that with Ahsoka, like, Huyang says, like, she would not have been picked by the Jedi, right? Like, she has does not have an aptitude for the Force, really, at all. But it also has potential of, like, when you think of his age, it's like, okay, let's say he's, like, in his mid-40s, like, that puts him around the age of, if we jump back 25 years, he still would have been about, you know, 20 years old during, like, the prime of the Jedi. So it's like, was he maybe a Padawan as well? Was he like an inverse Kanan, where, like, you know, went on the run, but he never like found someone like Ezra to rekindle his connection and boost himself on the Force. Like, he went, like, Kanan became a rebel and fought for the light, whereas, you know, Jod Law only
Jod Lawless.
Jod Lawless. He went on a different path. He went for piracy, right? That was his way of hiding, and he didn't get integrated with the rebellion and never met someone like Hera and Ezra and all of those people. So that's also potential too. I mean, he could still be a not an exile, but a like an old, what is the class in Force and Destiny: Edge of the Empire? There's one that's in the Rebels book that's basically like, it's what Kanan, he's like a Padawan that, like, on the run, essentially.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's like a Padawan exile or whatever.
Yeah, it's something like that. I think, like, what would you prefer if, like, he just wasn't a Jedi and he was just, like, a guy that discovered latent powers but didn't do anything with it, you know?
Absolutely.
I
would as well. I do think every time they add a new Jedi in that time period, I'm just kind of like, another one. Like,
Order 66 becomes less and less efficient. It's like, what are you guys doing? You know?
It's like, there has to be, I feel like there has to be, like, a cap of, like, okay, if there's 10,000 Jedi and you wiped out almost all of them, the cap can only be, like, I mean, granted, it's probably not even 100 at this point in canon, but still, it's like, dang, dude, like, there was a lot of Jedi running around.
Get this, guys. My new idea for a Force user. He survived Order 66. He's a Jedi in the Galactic Civil War post-era. It's like, you hear that song and dance, and you're like, I know where this is going. So I really hope that it's a surprise.
Yeah.
I really hope I mean, because this could be really good character development for him. That what if they do find this Jedi temple and, like, he realizes that he's meant for something more, and so he ends up being a part of this new era of Jedi that we're seemingly working towards.
Right.
I don't know. That could be cool.
Or, I mean, like, I do suspect someone was saying this, that, like, I suspect he'll likely use the kids to try to get to kind of reclaim his power of finding ATTIN, but he's gonna grow an attachment to these kids, and he's gonna probably gonna backstab them at some point or another, and then it kind of be a thing of, like, I have to go back and save them, sort of thing. I do have to be the Jedi that they think I am, you know, or at least that they thought I was until I revealed my true nature, and then it kind of being like a kind of have a, I don't know, a heart-to-heart moment with, at the very least, Wim, because I feel like Wim is going to put a lot of faith in him, and he's definitely going to let him down at some point or another. I mean,
yes.
he's already lying that he's a Jedi, you know? It's like they've got a ship, they're on their own, they say that they're from ATTIN. It's like tick, 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 yep, let's go.
Yeah, and he's already using the I'm a Jedi crutch in order to kind of improve his believability and his reputation and stuff. And so like Wim is gonna have a moment where like he's like, this isn't how the Jedi are supposed to act, you know? And
Jedi are heroes.
Yeah, I was like, look at my book. And by the way, like his little like hollow storybook, very cool. I wish I had me one of them.
I hope that they publish a physical book of that or something. Because like I've got a couple right there above my thumb. Those are the myths and fables and like dark legends, all of those things. And they're short stories within the universe of Star Wars that talk about these like, I mean, they're truly like fables, right? And that's what this feels like, right? Is it feels very, very myth, tall tale like, which is kind of what Star Wars is in general. Which, by the way, Will pointed out something. I think it's just purely coincidental. But the two action figures he has, he said look a lot like Arkin and Thexan. One is like in all white and one is like in all black. Now, granted, it's like when he's playing with him. And I was like, that would just be a cool nod, right? Like, even if it's just some tall tale about the Eternal Empire, you know, and these two brothers.
Okay. Oh no, don't get me started on this.
The rabbit hole.
No, don't. I was like, I had thought to myself, like, you know, my boy Vitiate did a lot of stuff. He was always cooking up something. He was like, dude, he's worse than Palpatine in terms of like what he's cooking up and trying to engage his longevity. So I was thinking, you know, before you had brought up the great works thing, I was like, what if this is Eternal Empire stuff? And I was like, no way. That would be such a bomb drop to like, dude, Skeleton Crew being the canonization of the Eternal Empire. I would go, WTF, please just bring Revan into canon first before we start talking about this stuff. Like, don't even get me started on the Eternal Empire. That is a whole nother like can of worms.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
I'll be honest, I wouldn't. I mean, when they're talking about it being the crown jewel of the Old Republic, I'm kind of like, I kind of think they might go there. I mean, we already know so much about the High Republic and stuff, and it's like, what is even more ancient and mystical and sounds more tantalizing to pirates? Something from thousands of years ago, you know? Like that has that amass of like endless wealth, you know? Something that has been passed down for generation to generation to generation for a millennia, you know? Like
and what better way to make like something that was intended to be good used for nefarious purposes under the pretense of just a blanket term of great work, right? Like, I mean, that feels like something that, you know, I don't know, Palpatine or Vitiate or whoever else could find and go like, I think I want this to be my project now. You know, I'll just call it the same thing and I just won't tell them what they're doing and just keep doing what they're doing, you know? Like, that sounds accurate, but I'm not going to go down too far.
Right.
But let's just say I'm keeping an eye on you.
Yeah.
I'm keeping an eye on you.
I think there's, at the very least, there's going to be some really cool lore drop, I think. I just feel it in my bones, my skeleton crew bones.
Well, I mean, just looks at camera. He's right. They are bones. Is there anything? I've kind of exhausted all of the things that immediately I had on my on the top of my head, but I'm trying to think. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about that first kind of grabbed your attention? The ferryman at Port Borgo.
Yes,
dude. Like the little dude. He's like,
bro, he was zooming,
dude. When he got the credit, like he might have just gone, holy shit. Like he
Bro,
was
freaking
so
out,
he
and then
took
just-
that thing and ran. He was gone.
Bro, that guy's the Flash. Like he was like I'm running, bro. And then he just kept trying to get more. Port Borgo was awesome. I loved the vibe
I agree.
of it. I was like, this feels so scum and villainy. Very, I mean, it's obligatory for a Star Wars project to have, you know, a scene or a place that is just crawling with different creatures and wacky looking people, you know.
The Mos Eisley Cantina scene, like just kind of like repeats of that, you know. Show us the Star Wars galaxy at its grimiest, you know.
Yeah, yep.
Show me where all of the scum and villainy go. And to be honest, Port Borgo, that's one of the places out of it very much looks like a wow.
Yeah.
I don't want to come here, but I also really want to go, you know, for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, I was surprised that they even showed like a brothel. I was very surprised because it was like, you know, we're big Blade Runner fans, and I was like, that looks straight out of Blade Runner 2049, dude, or like Cyberpunk.
Well, like Smee using the metal to burn the guy's face, dude getting shot in the eye, like immediate pirates murdering seemingly just transport trade crew, you know, and then now a brothel. Like there's obviously, I mean, I'm now picking up on what they were saying, where it's like, it's not like a 4Kids show, but it's a show that, you know, it's like, it's a coming of age show, but you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm picking up on that too. And like, it's done so in a way that older movies did very well, where the assumption, like the implication is there, and those who are old enough to understand. Right. And it's enough for the kids to go like, I think that's bad. And I'm not going to ask more about it. And if I ask more about it, I'm not gonna get any answers. You know. And it's that perfect intersection where like both adults and kids can enjoy it.
Oh yeah. So speaking, this is like something on Port Borgo. Do you know what Captain EO is? Captain EO. If you don't know what it is, if you had to guess what it is.
Captain EO. So you're saying it. So I'm guessing it's either like, well, I'll just start with this. Is it in Star Wars? Are we gonna do 20 questions? Is it in Star Wars?
No. Well, kind of after last night it is.
Okay. Is it a Disney IP?
Yes.
Is it in Pirates of the Caribbean?
No.
Is it an animated movie?
No.
Is it a live action movie?
Yes.
Like is it in one? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a live action movie of sorts.
Okay. Is it spelled I-O?
No.
Is it spelled E-O?
Yes.
All right. See, now I'm getting to it, and I have no idea what it is really. So it's in a Disney brand live action movie.
I will drop a big hint here that's not that's still not gonna give you a whole lot. I feel it's gonna give you like maybe a part of the puzzle. A very, very, very significant pop culture icon is a part of this film.
Okay.
I think people at the audience are getting a kick out of this.
So I bet some people are just so frustrated, but I really hope that there are some others that are just like, man, I don't know, like.
Yeah.
Okay, my give up. What do you got?
Captain EO is a 17-minute long short film that was essentially a show/ride at Epcot in Disney World, starring Michael Jackson. Okay.
Whoa. Okay. There's a lot going on.
You may
here.
be asking, why is that relevant? Well, Captain EO, it shut down in 2015, You can watch it online still. I did watch it in 2014, so it was one of the I think the second time I'd ever gone to Disney World. Very old short film, directed by Francis Ford Coppola.
What?
Yeah, written by Coppola and George Lucas and one other person. Produced by Lucasfilm ILM, and it is about this space captain who has he has a shipmate that looks almost identical to Max Rebo. Like, it looks like the same species of Max Rebo, or even Neil, even though Neil's a different species than Max Rebo, which I found that out recently. Regardless.
Yeah. He's like a Rebo adjacent. Yeah,
he's kind of like offshoot. So last night in episode 2, you know that little like fairy thing that I think either KB or Fern that goes up and like touches through the cage? It's like kind of like red, bright orange.
It's such a cute little guy.
Yeah. That's from Captain EO.
Oh, okay. So did you pick up on this immediately? You were like,
no, I did not. Wow. And then apparently this was in trailers, and then I saw this, and someone posted about it on Instagram or Threads or something like that, and they were like, that's the same little creature that flies around with Michael Jackson and Captain EO. So they're just pulling all the stops of like from the Pirates of the Caribbean rides to Captain EO, and I like that it's not heavy-handed references. It's references that are just subtle enough, right? Like
I love not something deep cut references,
right? And it's not something like, there's Lizzo in The Mandalorian season 3, you know? It's like, right? It's like, here's this little thing that people always speculated that Captain EO was set in the Star Wars universe. Like, people were, that was always like a headcanon that people had. And it doesn't directly confirm it, but like, Seth from Beyond the Dune Sea on a stream that I watched the other day, he picked up on that, and I watched it today. He was like, I would love if there was like a little hologram in the background of like Michael Jackson, like, you know, like dancing, because he like dances in the thing. And
of course
I was
he
like,
does.
And I was like, even if you don't see his face and it's just like the outfit, the iconic Captain EO, like white and red kind of spacesuit thing of just him like moonwalking or something, like on a little holodrama thing. Like, speaking of holodrama, that little thing, that like brain rot thing that his little brothers.
The kids show.
Yeah, I'm like, what is this, dude? It's like, it reminded me of like Teletubbies, bro. Or it's just like you think about Teletubbies and you're like, man, that is really weird when you think about it. But when you're a kid, you don't think anything about it. You're like, Teletubbies.
His Teletubbies. Hell yeah, Teletubbies. Yeah. So I was laughing a lot because the Glup allegations, it's never gonna be beaten. Yeah. Because like when Neil gets home, he's like Glorbo and Turbo and blah blah. Like he just like says all of their names, and it's a very just. It's so funny to me on just how much of like Wim watching Neil go into his home is just such a comically large FU from Wim's from Neil's family to Wim. Yeah. And like obviously that's not the intention, but like you just get the idea of like the Rowley, you know, thing there.
Well, it makes me wonder. I'm like, what happened to Wim's mom? Like, did she pass away? Is she missing? Like, I don't.
No, I can't say it because it could even spoil the viewers. We'll talk about it later. I'll ask you a question, and then we'll determine kind of the ramifications of that. But essentially, I think that something much more potent could have happened to Wim's mom. So I'm not really sure, but we'll see.
I'm kind of on the same wavelength with you. I don't, not specifically, but I kind of feel like there's something that whatever is going on with ATTIN, but I also thought, I was like, what if she's what if this, I don't think they would do this, but I was like, what if she was a Jedi or something, you know, like, I doubt it, but it's crossed my mind.
That'd be something.
Yeah. It's like,
I mean, like if the time capsule thing is accurate, but then again, I don't know. Because that could explain why the ship is so old, you know? Like the time capsule, the ship that Smee's on, like, and him and his captain, like, they get caught in the time capsule or whatever, and it shuts down, and like, I don't know.
Yeah. When I say time capsule, I don't mean like literally like frozen in time, because that's kind of not how Star Wars works.
More like a buried time capsule from a it's metaphorically frozen in time.
Yeah, or it's like you think about like if there was some country that like, I don't know. I mean, when you think about something like Fallout, right? Like the whole point of Fallout is like, here's a society, but like, you know, it's if they were like, they got chronically stuck in like the 50s sort of thing, where it's like, not literally, but everything was inspired by like the 40s and 50s. And it's, I mean, if ATTIN never had any outside contact, then that's going to drastically change a lot of how their society works, where they don't know about the CIS or the Clone Wars or the Empire or, you know, the fall of the Jedi, right?
Well, what we see, because this is an interesting point, because Fern's mother, the supervisor, when she visits Wim's class, references like the great work is being done for the Republic. She doesn't necessarily say the New Republic. She doesn't say the Old Republic. She doesn't even say the Galactic Republic. She just says the Republic. And it's like, well, if she doesn't know, and, you know, this is just going off of the assumption that she doesn't know. Does she know? Then how, I mean, are they still just there doing this eternal experiment and it just never shut off? Because whoever was in charge of it just forgot about it, or they died, or whatever.
Or like, they were like, yeah, you're going to be doing this, but we won't have contact. And then like, nobody came back, you know?
Well,
like,
we'll be back to check in on you.
Yeah.
Let's see, circa 0 BBY, you know, or like circa, well, we'll be back to check on you, circa 19 BBY, whatever BBY means. And then they like, just, you know, that was Seth Rogen.
Something. Yeah, I don't know. I think, I'm not sure if, I think over every episode we're going to get a little bit more teases of what's going on. The last thing that I have to talk about before we kind of wrap things up, unless you have anything else to talk about, is do you have any speculations of other characters that might show up?
Man,
because I think it's gonna happen. I have some that I think will definitely not show up, but I have a few that I think, oh, it could be likely.
Okay. I'm kind of hoping that nobody really shows up unless it's like a deep cut reference.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping it's like very self-sustained, self-controlled, you know. I don't want there to be like a Luke shows up at the end and he's like, Wim, I'm gonna train you to become a Jedi. So it's not impossible in my mind for Mando to show up.
Yeah.
I could see that
was
happening.
Like a rumor a long time ago, but I don't think there was anything concrete of it, you know.
Since like I'm almost positive like the pirate in here is Vane, right? So so I wouldn't, I mean, I could see that happening. As for others, you had mentioned it earlier, I could see Hondo making an appearance. I mean,
I'm almost certain he'll show up only because his ship from Smuggler's Run was spotted in one of the trailers.
Really?
So yeah, the one that the hauler that he helps you when you're getting all of the hyperfuel, and that he like picks up the things, that ship was in one of the trailers. So
well,
but it doesn't mean that it is his ship. It could just be another one of them, but gives credence. And here's the thing: is like, I think Hondo is one of those characters where he can kind of show up on a lot of stuff and it feel kind of like, yeah, that makes sense. And especially in the show about pirate stuff, it makes sense. And like a live action Hondo already exists. Like he was,
indeed.
He's in like the holograms, or not the holograms, the little like screens in the ride. It's a real actor with Jim Cummings' voice, and it looks phenomenal.
Well, so I I could see him showing up because even though the characters are drastically different, he kind of feels like the Star Wars Nick Fury, where like he the interconnectivity is there.
Yeah.
And it's not too. Although Nick Fury is a lot more important, so I'll make that comparison very loose. But
the Nick Fury of Star Wars right now, at least, is Carson Teva, that X-wing pilot that shows up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
that guy be showing up in everything. Hondo is kind of like Jack Sparrow, but he kind of just shows up when there is profit to be had, and really the only things that he has shown up in has been, other than the rides and like comic books and video games, has just been Clone Wars and Rebels. So so there's plenty of like for him to have his first live action appearance wouldn't feel oversaturated, I think. But I have two picks that I cannot take credit for. I did not think of these originally, but I do think I would love to show up, and I think would make perfect sense.
Yeah.
The first one is Dr. Aphra.
Oh, that would be really great.
Yep.
She's such a great character that I've really wanted her to have like a live action debut, and I feel like this would be a more or less comfortable way to do it.
Right. I mean, she is a more shady treasure hunter. As far as I know, she is alive in the timeline because she is popped up in some of the newer Star Wars comics that take place after the Battle of Endor. She knows Luke Skywalker. People like she's bumped into them before, but she's on the cover of one of those Battle of Jakku comics. So she's involved. I mean, we got Black Chrysanthemum in Book of Boba Fett, and she is very heavily tied to Dr. Aphra. So
I would like Black Chrysanthemum. That'd be cool.
That would be cool. He's one of those characters that I also think could kind of show up in a different things, and I'm not going to be upset about it, you know?
Well, I've got an idea. Like, you might have this, you might be about to, like, say this one, but, like...
Okay.
What if there's a possibility that, like, Fee shows up from Bad Batch, you know?
Oh, whoa, that would be crazy.
Because she was a big treasure hunter, right? So, like...
Yeah, she was.
I feel like maybe she could kind of get in on that. You never know.
I like that. That'd be cool. And I mean, I think
maybe Omega. You know, who knows?
Whoa, that would be cool. If Omega and Fee after that would be crazy. I would be really cool with that. My last pick almost feels like other than Hondo, I feel like is the most likely to happen, and that's Maz Kanata.
Oh yeah, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. I could see that happen. I mean, it's Maz. Come on.
Yeah, and like her castle is just riddled with treasure and stuff like that. Like Takodana feels a lot like Port Borgo in the sense that it's like all of these ruffians, and even more so than like Mos Eisley Cantina, where like this is a castle and she's got treasure in her basement, you know. So it's like,
dude, Maz is legendary, man. I mean, like they even retroactively confirmed that the figure in Anakin's room is of Maz, right? So like,
oh really?
Yeah. So like the little like statuette, the alien figure, like that was inspired. Like Maz's look was inspired by that figure. Pretty much. That is
really cool.
And so like that just makes it so much cooler, where like, I mean, yes, she's super old, like she's been around a long time, so I would not be surprised at all.
Yeah, Maz and Hondo actually know each other, so like if to have like, it'd be kind of cool if like Hondo, Maz, and Fee were all like teaming up to be like, these kids came from ATTIN, and they're like, we want in on this, and then say you got Dr. Aphra and she's hired Black Chrysanthemum, you know, like that would be cool. Well, and they could show up without being like, oh my gosh, to like like it wouldn't be a Luke Skywalker moment. It would just be like, to everybody else would be like, oh, that's just some random girl and that Wookiee from that Boba Fett show. But then to everybody else, it's like, I do believe there's just people that like that say that, oh, when other characters show up on other projects, it makes the galaxy feel small. And I agree when it's like, oh, Lando and Han and Leia and all of them are in this, you know? It's
Darth Vader shows up. What's he doing here? He's dead, you know? Like,
right. It's like that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, I agree. But when you have people from like really obscure stuff, like or just characters that are like, whoa, that makes sense. Like Maz has not shown up in anything else other than comic books and the movies. It's like Skeleton Crew kind of feels like it would be a good connective tissue there. So I don't know. None of these have to happen. None of these may happen at all, and I would be fine with that. But if like knowing how Star Wars is, like, I mean, the Acolyte being 200 years before, and yet Ki-Adi-Mundi and Yoda showed up. It's like Skeleton Crew is at a prime era where it's you got all these people that we know from all these different type of media. Someone I think is bound to show up, you know.
Yeah, I mean, so the galaxy is the galaxy is massive, right? And so obviously you're gonna hear something from me if, like, you know, you see Forlom go up and like go like, I want in on this, and then Dirge is like, yeah, me too, and then you see Cad Bane, and he's like, I'm alive, and also I want in, and then the camera pans over, and it's like Force Ghost Yoda, and he's like, hidden treasure, you know, like, and like if you did all that, you know, it would be a little much, but there are certain things that I'm okay with there being interconnectivity, you know, like Bo-Katan with Mandalore, that makes sense to me, like. Luke coming in to, you know, pick up Grogu after sending out like a Force signal, like, yay, Masters, come and get me, you know? Yeah. Like, that makes sense to me. So if Maz showed up or Hondo showed up, like, that would make sense. I think I would also, if this gets around, there's gonna be more than just treasure hunters that want to get in on this. And so if there is, you know, a chance that like a higher up or something hires a bounty hunter to get in on this, I would be very open to seeing like any bounty hunters that we know of. Like I love the Star Wars underworld, right? I want to see more bounty hunters, more like, I mean, dude, this is incredibly unlikely, and in fact, I'm just going to state that it's not going to happen ever. But a live-action Dirge would just, you know, ruin my life for the rest of it. You know, like
that'd be insane, dude.
It would never, nothing would ever top that. But like the availability to see like these cool characters that don't really get much of the limelight. Because otherwise they would be shoehorned into stories and whatnot. The chance is there. So if they want to bring in somebody, do it, you know, like just for a little cameo or whatever, and then have them be on
the most
way.
mainstream person that I could see popping up, which I don't think will happen, but I would not be unhappy if it did, would be Lando, played by Donald Glover. That would in a post
that
like
would make sense.
I never saw Lando being someone after the New Republic gets reestablished of him being like, all right, I'm going to stick with this, you know, like I can see like, you know, Han and Luke and Leia. Well, yeah, Leia is a princess turned general turned government official. Luke is a Jedi master tied with the New Republic. Han is Leia's husband. You know, I can see that, but someone like Lando to be like, you know, we've defeated the Empire, I'm off to my own vices again. And you know, if he's doing something like Bespin or, you know, some other, you know, profiteering thing where he's gone respectable kind of vibe, he still needs funding. And so I could see him putting on the cape and the blaster and being like, treasure, you say, huh?
I'm responsible these days.
Yeah, you know, it's like, I mean, he's gonna gear up. But, even Leia joined the Alliance more out of necessity, not because like I love warfare. I'm a big fan, right? Yeah. It's like I think with it's probably more plausible with Han and Lando, you know, because like the war is done. Obviously there, you know, still potentially some Imperial remnant stuff, but mostly right now it's quote air quotes under control, you know. Right. And so as we know, like for instance, just the retroactive stuff that we had heard in The Force Awakens, but then also some comics, and then Han in the Battlefront 2
like the new game story, Han's doing other stuff. He's like kind of getting back into the groove of things. So yeah, if they want to, I mean, I don't want to see Han. I'll just say that. But like, if they did bring him in, it'd be cool.
You know, it would be the craziest connective tissue. If they were going to bring Han in, I would need young Ben to be with him to interact with these kids. Like that is the only way I think I could make that be like, okay, it's, you know, Han Solo showing up is to be like Han and Chewie have been with him before he is fully sworn into being a Jedi, and he's like a little bit younger than them, right? Like I think how old do you think all of the kids are? Like I think Fern and KB are a little bit older, and I think Wim and Neil are a little bit younger.
I think so.
10, maybe.
I would be surprised if Wim and Neil went past 10, 11, 11 max. Right. I could see Fern oldest being like 12, and then them being like 10. I don't. And if the timeline is right, Ben is 27 in The Force Awakens. So like, Ben would be like, if I don't, depending on the timeline, he could be anywhere from like 4 years old to like 7 years old, you know? That's weird. That's weird thinking that like just a young Ben is out there. Like
He's out there, dude.
The whole timeline thing, it really gets in your head sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah. And I do hope at some point or another we get those stories. Like I want to see. Yeah. Man, do you know how much I would eat up like Luke and Ben stories, or like Han and like just that era, dude. I just want more of those characters in that era on a visual medium, you know?
I want to see like just an extended version of Luke in the Battlefront 2 game, just going through the galaxy looking for artifacts, you know? Where he finds the compass and dude, all that stuff.
You gotta pick up that comic that's coming out right now. I'm telling you.
Oh man.
It's that good. Like,
really?
Because I'm 2 issues behind, but like Luke in those first 4 issues, it ties directly into Battlefront 2. Like I won't say why. Like the mission that you play in Battlefront 2 literally is like right in that comic. Like like the aftermath of him taking that compass is in the comic. Really good. And Luke is like on his A game. Like he's not like at Mando season 2 levels yet, but he's pretty much like, I'm the
Jedi Master Luke Skywalker.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. So, anyway, any last thoughts on the initial 2 episodes of Skeleton Crew before we do our rite of passage?
I think that I'm really excited to see where it's going. It's a strong start. I'm happy to be happy about Star Wars, you know? And also, just one thing, I thought it was really cool how the first episode ended with them going into hyperspace, and then the shot of space doesn't change and you just see the credits, because that's what we usually see.
I love that it just said, I think it just says like directed by John Watts or whatever. And you're like that's a really cool transition.
I'm like, that's awesome. You know, just finally just leaving the space there. I don't know. And then also the opening crawl with the honestly sinister music. Like it was very
Solo.
Very Solo. I love Solo's opening so much.
So good, really dude.
But yeah, I'm excited. It's good. We'll see what happens next. I love Smee. Give me a Smee statue right here. Thank you very much.
Cole just wants like Iron Man's Hall of Armor, but it's just droids.
Yes.
C-3PO, HK-47, K-2SO, Professor Hewing, SM-33, 000. 000, dude. There you go. And I'm also glad to see that for the most part, both critically and audience-based, very good reception. It's been like
good.
Rotten Tomatoes, I think, has been like both is like over 88%. So
excellent.
So people seem to be liking it. And I think really the last thing I have to say is, just because you mentioned the Solo thing, we're big fans of Solo here. I think this is kind of what that, like, I think when you just give me a Star Wars project that feels familiar yet new, I'm always going to be excited for it, you know? And so
yeah, man, give me a new story in the Star Wars universe, please.
Yeah, and I'll be there, you know.
I'll be happy. I am happy.
I mean, I've got all these books that I got to get reading. Dude, just small shout out here real quick. I didn't even get to tell you this yet.
Huh.
Shout out to the guys at Beyond the Dune Sea, because they are the nicest dudes in the world. They unprompted, well, I actually sent them a package, and then a day later I got a package from them because we both thought the exact same thing. There's a little underneath that silver copy, right underneath there, is a first edition copy of Death Troopers that Seth just had laying around. So I cannot wait to read Death Troopers next Halloween season, and
that's awesome.
Dude, it's in like pristine condition. Do you have your paperback copy?
Yeah, I've just got it's the one with the Legends banner.
It's still,
but you know,
banger cover.
I also haven't read it yet, so I'd be happy to read it. So.
It's not a long book, so I'm thinking, you know, if people are interested in it, maybe next Halloween season, you know, from like September to October, we could just read all of Death Troopers and hop on a stream with some other people and talk about it for spooky season, because
that'd be lovely.
It'd be cool. And Skeleton Crew kind of gave me a little bit of those vibes, you know, when they were on that the derelict ship flying through the space, and then even them finding the ship, I was like, ooh, I like these creepy vibes. But
I liked the reveal that it was upside down. I don't know why I thought that was so neat.
And I loved it. Like, there's visual indicators too of like the vent being on the floor, and like even like the doorway has like a little almost a little like point to it, and I was like, why is that on the floor? And when they figured it out and the seats came down, I was like, oh, that's cool. That's really.
I was like, dude, how big is this ship? Like when it was rising out of the earth, that's when you know it's old. It's an old ship.
It looked really good too.
Oh, dude, when it came out of hyperspace, it was like the junker that the Knights of Ren were in, where you just see all the dust that kind of comes with it. Yeah,
dude. I'm a big fan of the gas.
We're a big fan of the gas. Yeah.
I found that they have a Lego set for it, and I'm kind of like,
I got a Lego gas.
I like that it has the thrusters that like on the back and the front that like they like when it's flying in atmosphere, like this, and then
it's very like cargo hauler kind of thing.
Reminds me of the shield helicarrier, kind of, although it doesn't really do that. But yeah, it's cool. You know what it reminds me of? Those freaking automaton ships in Helldivers 2. That's what it reminds me of. Because that's how they fly.
100%. It reminds me of the gosh, there's like those thrusters are on the tanks in Destiny, aren't they? Dude.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
Square thrusters, everybody.
The Cabal ones. Yeah, that's right.
Yep. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Okay. Well, with that being said, let's jump into our favorite segment on the show. The Chat Pack.
Chat Pack.
The Chat Pack. Insert transition here.
Hold on. Whoosh. Okay, there we go.
Let's grab 35. That sounds like a good round number right there.
You don't look a day over 35.
35. Shout out to my Spider-Man fans.
Yeah.
Okay. This is very applicable for Skeleton Crew.
Why do we always do that?
I don't know.
Why is it always an applicable chat back question? Yeah.
It's somewhat applicable, I would say. Imagine there's a valuable relic hidden somewhere in a Wampa's cave.
Hey?
What's your plan to retrieve it without being caught by the snow beast? Let's work together. You and I, we're a two-man crew. We're treasure hunters, okay? Yeah. And we go to Hoth, or at least another planet that's cold climate, and there's a Wampa there. What's our plan? We've got 2 Tauntauns. We've ridden out to a famous Wampa cave. We've got our cold gear. We've got our blaster pistols or rifle, whatever you choose. That we're trying to sneak into this Wampa cave. We know there's at least one. There could be more.
Okay. Well, we'll keep it simple. All right. we'll smoke them out. All right.
Okay.
As it just so happens, we have 2 breathalyzers on us. We'll put them on.
Okay.
Throw in some Deoxys, and he'll either he'll either be incapacitated or he'll run out.
Okay.
And then we have to deal with it when it's right in front of us.
So my initial thought was we bring bait with us because we know that wampas are carnivorous creatures. He's naturally going to smell our tauntauns, so we might have to like get there closer.
Yeah.
We could either bring like a living creature, or we could just bring like a big hunk of meat with us. And we plant it somewhere outside the cave to lure him out, and then we try to sneak in. And if we can sneak in, gives us enough time to try to find the relic, and then like your plan. Then the thing is, he's gonna drag the meat into the cave because he's gonna be cold. Like wampas get cold too. Bring them inside.
Let wampas wear coats.
Yeah, exactly. Especially on a hot summer day too. Roll down the windows, guys, for your fellow wampas in your life.
For your fellow wampas in your life. You got a wampa in your local area. Give them a hug, okay? Let them know that they are loved.
Maybe he will rip your arms off, much like a Wookiee. Trying to think if there's. I'm thinking of this like in Edge of the Empire of like us, like what is our, like that is the goal, what is our plan,
Yeah.
And I'm like that, but that's really all I got. Is I think I like the Deoxys idea, like that's smart. I don't want to kill the wampa though, like I'd feel bad,
Well, let's see, how much does it take to stun a wampa? Because I'm willing to bet it's not one like stun blast from an E11, right? We're probably gonna need a lot. So how about this? We modify rotary cannons. I think they're like Z6 rotary cannons.
Yeah.
With stun shots, and I throw like some noise, like, or no, I throw in a concussion grenade, freaks him out. And then I'm like, quickly, we set up the rotary cannon, and it's like, just immediately
just unload stun shots,
stun him into a coma, like, and he'll be up eventually. We leave a piece of meat there. We're like, thanks for your time, and we leave with our treasure, which is the entire planet of ATTIN. We find it in that cave. That's where it is.
It's a
brainiac planet. Yeah, it's just
in a bottle, Yeah. I was trying to figure out. I was like, what treasure would be in a wampa cave?
It's an AU where Luke never grabbed the lightsaber.
I was about to say, I was like, what if it was a lightsaber, dude? The rumor.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. I would modify a Z6 rotary cannon with stun shots so I could get a lightsaber out of a Hoth cave.
That sounds like something that you would hear a guy at a bar say while like walking past him.
Yeah,
for some reason. Like, I don't know, like at Port Borgo, right? You just hear a guy go, "Yeah, you know what? I would go into Hoth and stun a wampa with a Z6 rotary cannon in order to get a lightsaber. I'd do it, That sounds like
that's
something. That's
probably what the people at ILM and like Lucasfilm Sound do, like Matt Wood and David Collins and all those guys. They probably just sit there at a table and be like, yeah, we need some like background talking for this scene. And they're just like, they just like come up with random Star Wars stuff, It's just
check
like,
out those new T16s.
Yeah, literally, it's just like that. It's just like, they're not as good as last year's model, And it's like, I heard rumors of a lightsaber on some ice planet called Hoth, but that's held up by a wampa. I'm kind of thinking of going to get it though.
It sounds like the stormtrooper banter from like Jedi Survivor or something.
Just listen in.
One of them just standing on a ledge. It's like, you know what? I would love to go to a Hoth cave with a Z6 rotary cannon and stun a wampa to near death if it meant that I could get a lightsaber. What are you talking about, Bob?
It's just like, what did you drink last night?
Did you have too many Nerf dogs? Yeah.
You mean Turbo Dogs?
Turbo Dogs, yeah. Apparently Nerf dogs are a thing too. I think it was in Legends. Or Nerf Burger, I know that.
I need a Nerf burger, bro.
Dude, I could go with a Nerf burger or a space waffle.
That's remember that? I remember that, dude. And that was one of Kane and Jarrus' favorite food. My guy.
I love space waffles. Eggos.
I don't blame him, dude. I remember when we went to Galaxy's Edge this past summer and we did our little Falcon escapade. When I went over to Docking Bay, I was just like so hungry, and that was just like the best, like one of the best meals. I was just sitting there, like, because you guys were getting food somewhere else, and I couldn't take the food to go, and I was like, I have to just sit, like, I couldn't like take the tray with me, so I was like, I'll just eat this really quick, and I just got like something that they didn't have at Disney World's Galaxy's Edge. And I was just sitting there eating and just like taking in the ambience of the docking bay and stuff. And then I got to that geode like dessert, the Vintian like mousse cake or whatever. And I I had like the coffee that they have at Galaxy's Edge, and I was like, oh my god, this is the best thing. It's like, this is amazing. So
there was good. Oh man, what is it? It's that other restaurant where it's essentially around the
pod racer engine.
Yeah. I got
did
something.
You get a Ronto wrap?
That's exactly what I got. That was so good. I got it while because I think we all just decided that we were gonna eat while we were waiting for you, and I got one of those, and I was like, this bang. So like, dude. As far as park food goes, like, look, we are not endorsed by the Disney parks food, but that stuff's good, you know?
Yeah, dude. They theme it, and I don't feel like I'm eating like junk food, dude. Yeah. The breakfast Ronto wrap. We went there last year because I'd never been able to get breakfast at Galaxy's Edge, and they have one that's just like a Ronto wrap, but it's more breakfast themed, so it's got like egg and stuff on it.
Yeah.
Bro, I am such a simp for breakfast, man. That thing was, and they gave you like a little thing of like sliced fruit with like a little sauce that was like, wouldn't think would go with it well, but it was like the sweet and like the savory, but like as for breakfast. And then I had the coffee, of course, because I like coffee.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, this is.
Don't you mean the calf?
Sorry. My cold brew calf. That's what I had with
Oh, that sounds so good. Cold brew calf, dude.
Dude, it has the foam, so it's iced cold brew with it's got like it's gonna sound weird, but it's got cream cheese foam on it, so it's like cream cheese, like, you know, like cream cheese frosting and like a cake or something. And then it has Cocoa Puffs on it too. Dude, it's so good.
I love this show so much because this is a Skeleton Crew episode. we're talking about like the cream cheese that's on top of a space cold brew. Oh man. Okay.
I need to learn how to make me some of those. Well, okay.
So anyway, we would kill the Wampa, and then we would get the
lightsaber.
The lightsaber.
And then we would go to Galaxy's Edge, sell the lightsaber to Doc Ondar for another lightsaber, and then we would get the cold brew calf.
Picture this: we have an AT-AT, and we blow up the cave, and we get it eventually.
I mean, there's likely abandoned rotary cannons on the planet anyway, so like if we were stranded, we probably could do that.
Yeah, but like the odds of finding it if you don't know where Echo Base is.
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, one rotation and it's completely frozen over, you know.
Probably like even less than a rotation, honestly.
Yeah, those snowstorms kick in pretty quick.
Here's a community question, everybody. How did Han survive that entire night? Was it the will of the Force, or did he have like those little bags that you can shake it up and it'll warm your hands in his pockets?
Hot hands?
Yeah, hot hands. Or did he have hot hands the whole time? Dial 555mortisfm.com !! and send in your questions to us. We'll get back to you at some point in the indefinite future. Don't expect an answer. Yeah, that's everything.
That actually is a good thing to transition into our outro housekeeping stuff. I've been speculating if I want to gauge this with people, because I've thought about it. Would people want fan questions? If you are interested in asking us questions, much like this chat pack or just whatever, let us know if you're interested in that, and maybe we'll make that a regular segment on the show.
Yes, keep in mind, we will eventually run out of chat pack questions. And so now is the time to be thinking of some, or help us.
We still have. So. I mean, I'm not gonna show the ones. This is the ones we've done. It's about that thick.
Technology.
Okay, we've done that, and this is about how much we have left. We are about a fourth of the way through.
Shout out to Kelly Knox, Star Wars Chat Pack. Thank you for creating it. It's a beautiful thing. Everyone, it's a wonderful party game, but only for Star Wars fans, and maybe not. But
take it to the cantina and have some fun.
Take it to the cantina.
So, housekeeping stuff. End of the show. Just wanted to say thank you to everyone for your patience. I know in between Acolyte and Skeleton Crew had been a little sparse, that is because we were kind of mentioned taking a little bit of a break and also revamping some stuff. As you can see, we have a brand new intro and logo at the handiwork of my good friend Cole here. He's been working very hard, and we have a lot of stuff that he's still working on. So stay excited for that. I am.
I be cooking. And all of these assets are free under the Creative Commons license. If you would like to use some of these assets for yourself, that I used in the intro, the link to all of those downloadable files is in the description below. But yeah, we thought we'd spice things up a little bit for the new season of Star Wars. It's a new season for Mortis FM, everybody. Be excited.
Yeah. Cole absolutely crushed it. So there's more of that to come. He is working very hard as well on a very different kind of. It's not even really a podcast episode. It's just a video, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. He's working hard on that. I've got some more stuff that I'm working on as well. Keep your eye out as well on social media for any just little like reels and stuff we do. I drop some lore stuff. Cole is interested in doing some of that as well. So we're everywhere. We're doing all kinds of stuff. We love Star Wars. Yeah.
You look in your window, you see Mortis FM. We're there. You see our new episode?
Check out Mortis FM, a Star Wars podcast.
It's free real estate.
So thank you all for your patience. We hope you like all of the stuff that we've been working on. During this season, we will not be going anywhere, and this should be a continuous flow of Star Wars content. We hope it gets people excited. We just hope. I don't know. I just hope that people in general are getting excited for Star Wars again.
And trying to stay positive.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, it's the Acolyte season was just frankly extremely rough. Not because we didn't like the show, we did, but a lot of people were very vocal about why they didn't like it, even if they truly didn't believe it. Some people didn't like it, and that's fine. We've always said, like, if there's something that we like and you don't like, that is completely fine. You are not entitled to agree with us, to watch our show. We're just here to have fun. So, but I mean, when you see all of these other fellow peers, and I mean, our comment sections were flooded with people calling us not real Star Wars fans and things like that. It kind of makes you want to go, I need a little bit of a break. This is getting a little exhausting.
I mean, as you can see from both my and Grayson's displays, we don't like Star Wars at all, right?
Sucks, man.
Man, I don't. Star Wars is just the worst. Anyway, but to everyone who has stayed and shown up and also just continue to stay positive in general, thank you for being Star Wars fans. Thank you for being our fans, and just stay tuned for more in the future. So
more Mortis.
Stay tuned for Mortis.
Good job.
Thanks. I was cooking up. I had actually thought that at the end of our last episode, and I was like, oh, dude, like Mortis, like I gotta bring that up. And I think the payoff was there, so I feel pretty good about it,
Good, you should.
Dave Filoni, you got my number. It's right here. I'm gonna put it right here in post. Here, this is my phone number. Call me. You know, I don't actually. If you're doing the post, Grayson, don't put my phone number there. Just like put something. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna share it.
Dude, the Eric Andre show, they put Seth Rogen's actual phone number on the show.
What?
Yeah.
That is so funny.
Anyway, that's totally tangential. Everybody, and Grayson, may the Force be with you.
Oh, yeah, always.